Welcome to another episode of the Lone Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Clemenson. Today, we are joined by the wonderful, the one and only Mark Hodgson. Mark, welcome.
Hey, Brett. Thrilled to be on the show, finally.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know Mark, he's a mentor, he's an executive coach, he's a thought leader. What aren't you? You're basically the world of work, and you get in there and you just pump people up and push them along. I've used you for a while now as a mentor, and for anyone who needs a mentor or has considered doing it, do it. It just keeps you on the straight path. Mark's been great for that, but he also has these amazing pieces of work that we've used, and I thought you guys would get massive value out of it. My brain this morning was on goal setting, thinking, what can we put together for this podcast? And, I was listening to this wonderful piece around setting outcomes for goals, or people who set goals and are looking at what outcome they're trying to chase. And a lot of the time they're big, lofty goals. It's like, I want to buy a house, or I want to pay this off, or it might be I want to achieve this year, or I want to, hit these metrics at my desk this year. And that's all well and good and great, right? But, those goals and the excitement around that wear off pretty quick. And if you don't love the achievements and the process around that, you're just going to lose interest quite quickly. So I was going to put a whole piece together myself on it and went, nah, get the expert in. Let's get Mark in, because he's done some wonderful stuff with our team. So, Mark, first question for you is, where do people go wrong with goal setting, do you think?
Yeah, I think where people go wrong with goal setting is that, imagine an iceberg. They see it as the end result, but actually there's a lot of work you have to do ahead of setting goals, such that you're able to set and achieve goals consistently. And that's the point. We've all had good or bad periods where we set goals, achieve them, get motivated and get all inspired. But then stuff happens, we get tired, something unexpected happens, or we just get to the middle of the week and and then we find, before we know it, suddenly we've got a bit bored of it. And chances are, if we're just relying on some kind of inspiration or personal willpower to achieve and to set and achieve goals, chances are that a couple of things. Inspiration expires. We can get inspired and we get bored of our own inspiration, we get motivated, and the personal motivation piece. Most of us that gets refueled overnight, but chances are in the morning there's a certain amount of it of willpower that you build up, and it quickly gets spent. And if you're just relying on motivation and willpower, then it dissipates quickly, and then life gets in the way, business gets in the way, and before you know it, you look back and think, what happened to my goal setting? Or my measurement, and what happened to my achievement? So then we get that inconsistency, and then we get that self-loathing. Why am I so bad at setting goals, or goal setting doesn't work for me? So I think we look at the wrong end of the lens, if you like, and we've got to go much more upstream, or a mix of metaphors, or going to the iceberg metaphor. We've got to do the deep work underneath that to actually get us to a point where setting and achieving goals is an outcome of a process. And we've invested in a whole lot of work around our own process and our systems, such that goal setting becomes something that's valuable and achievable, and is valuable and achievable consistently, because it's the consistency that's going to get us to achieve longer term goals, like buying a house or hitting a certain sales number, or growing our desk, or whatever the metric is. That's going to be something that's going to need to be done patiently over time, all of which requires consistency. So we got to. I guess we got to think deeper, if that makes sense.
So tell me, so, and this all rings true, and I think people listening to this will go, "Wow, yeah, that does make sense." But a typical goal setting session for any individual would be 2 hours max, right? They get excited, they see it, they visualize it, and it feels great, and that's what I want, and they justify it. That's my why. Let's go. But what you're saying is, the reality is that that's just a start. Now we've got to put those building blocks together to support us getting there, right? How long do you think people need to put towards building up underneath, or is it just an ongoing thing?
It's a case of stepping back and seeing the problem or the opportunity, if you like, from further back. I mean, it's it's about creating the conditions for our own success, because goal setting and goal achievement is about personal performance and personal success. So for that to be true, we've got to step back and say, okay, how do we create the conditions such that we have the chance to be consistently successful? So that, for me, for most of the people I'm working with when I'm doing my executive coaching, the place I start, and this is true whether they're an ASX listed CEO or run their own business as a founder or a solopreneur. We start with what I call morning routine. What does the morning routine look like? And that's really all about our self-leadership. So it's about looking after our health, looking after our diet. And I know this is stuff you talk about a lot on the pod. Looking after our nutrition, our exercise, all the various things we need to do to give ourselves the chance of showing up at work in a place where we're balanced, we're rested, we're calm, and they're ready to do work. And that's, so when I mentioned morning routine, because the things around that, like fitness, like walking, spirituality stuff, journaling, reading, gratitude, all the things that I know you've talked about and heard. You can do them at different times of the day. You don't have to do them in the morning. But for most people, those things are best done in the morning. So, for most people, I advocate get up for 5:30, 6 o'clock. Spend that hour, the golden hour, investing in you, balancing those things. There's a great book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elroy that talks about a system that does that. But whatever works for you. But fundamentally, that piece creates the foundations for you to have a successful day. And I say, if you do that, then we can start to talk about goal setting. But if you've just rolled out of bed at 8:30, it's all chaotic. You've had 3 cups of coffee, and maybe you've got into the office late, or maybe you haven't even got into the office because you work from home, and all you've done is rolled out of bed, kind of splash some water on your face, and then sat down at your desk, and you expect to perform, set and achieve goals. I mean, given those two scenarios, which one sounds most likely to actually for you to be successful?
And we've all been in those situations, haven't we, where what you've just described is being on the front foot or being on the back foot, right? That's how it feels. And we know when we're ahead of the game. When you're on, you've done the right things in the morning, you've had your gym workout and you're ahead of it, family seems settled, whatever. You just feel like you're floating through that day in a really, like you're ahead of it. It's everything you're hitting. But then the opposite is the opposite, isn't it? Like, I've just woken up bleary-eyed. It's 8:30. Shit, kid's got to get up. I've got to eat. Blah, blah, blah. And you just feel like you're behind every single meeting, every single step, and it is a horrible feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and especially when we talk about goal setting. I mean, usually that's about a future state, isn't it? So it's about what do we want to achieve, and then what are the things we need to do to achieve that. And so there's an element, if you think about it, it's about forward planning. At one level, it's about forward planning. Well, for us to forward plan, we've got to be in control of time. We've got to be in control of state. We've got to be in control of our environment. And if we're chaotic about any of those things, again, what the chances are that we're going to sabotage ourselves and not be able to achieve those things, either because we're frazzled or because we're distracted, because our mind's still on the fact, I didn't do this thing, or did I put the dishwasher on, or whatever those things are. The reality is, life's busy, life's complex. A lot of, I think, what we need to do today is create a state of calm and a state of focus such that we are able to work. So many distractions, phones pinging, alerts. We all know there's lots of things that are screaming out for our attention that are not our setting and achieving our goals. So we've got to be very mindful of creating that space and that mindset and that environment where we can do those things. So I don't know if this sounds all a bit meta, and a bit like you're big, but the reality is, if you don't do this groundwork, this foundational work, then you can go. It's like you can do any number of little crash course this or diets here, but if you haven't done the fundamental groundwork, the chances are you'll just cycle through it and it'll work for a while and then it'll fail and then you go, oh, that didn't work, and then you'll feel bad about yourself and then you'll cycle and go again. So it's about creating foundations for your long-term success. And I say, when you see it in that base or through that perspective, then the actual goal setting and goal achievement and metrics mapping, you can see that's the tip of the iceberg. And chances are the chance of you being successful in that important work is greatly amplified if you've done that foundational work that we're talking about.
And they say billionaires don't even necessarily count the billions. It's just the scorecard, right? And I think that's the same with goal setting. When you achieve your goal, it means that what you planned was done correctly. It was the right plan.
Yeah.
And it's almost a scorecard to go, well done. What's next?
Yeah.